Hillary Clinton has proposed a change that in tax law that would, in my opinion, be a really useful, positive first step toward minimizing or reducing the possibility of another great crash. There's something fundamentally, basically wrong with capitalism right now. As Edward Luce, I believe it is, Edward Luce, writing in the Financial Times today, he says, last year, according to Goldman Sachs, Standard & Poor's 500 companies, these are the top 500 companies on the S&P index, spent more than $500 billion buying back their own stocks on shares buybacks. He says this year it's expected to hit $600 billion. Now, what is that? Well, when a company buys back its stock, it reduces the amount of stock that's out there, which increases the value of the stock. And if you've got a company that's worth $100 million and there's 100 million shares out there, then each share is worth $1. If you take 10 million shares off the marketplace, so now there's 90 million shares out there, each share becomes worth $1.10. You follow what I'm saying? So if you reduce the number of shares, you increase the price of the shares. Now, why do companies do this? Why are they spending this year $600 billion, half $1 trillion buying back their own shares instead of giving better pay to their employees, instead of building new factories, instead of developing new products, instead of aggressively marketing what they have? Why? Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they, right now capital is almost free. The lending rate is big companies can borrow money right now, in the neighborhood of 1.5%. Why are they not borrowing money and building factories or just using their own profits? Why are they using their profits to the tune of $500 billion to buy back their shares? Well, there's a very simple reason that Hillary Clinton is suggesting addressing, and I salute her for this. Now, I know Bernie has a solution for this too, and I like his solution too, and I'll tell you what both of them are. But I just, the fact that the principal Democratic candidates are talking about this stuff and could be discussing the differences in their approach, even though they're both good ideas, is a great idea. So anyhow, here's why these companies are buying back their stock. Prior to the 1980s, prior to the Reagan era, if you owned a company, or if you were the CEO of a company, or if you were a senior executive in a company, you got a paycheck. If you wanted to buy stock in the company, you could go out in the stock market and buy stock in the company. But you couldn't be paid in stock. You had to be paid in cash. Reagan changed those rules. Well, actually, Congress changed those rules, and they're IRS rules, but the Reaganomics, shall we say, changed those rules to say that the 1%, the 1/10 of 1%, the 100th of 1%, they can be paid in stock rather than with a paycheck. So you've got companies now that pay their CEOs $1 million a year, and then they give them $300 million worth of stock. Why would they do that? Well, here's the answer. Here's why. If that stock, say you're the CEO of, company X, some giant corporation, you get $1 million paycheck, but you've got, $100 million in stock options, right? That's part of your compensation. If you can get the price of that stock to go up, say you can make that, you can increase the share value, the price of the stock by 10%. So your $100 million worth of stock becomes $110 million worth of stock. Actually, a little more than that, but for the purposes of rounding off. Which means you make an extra $10 million when you sell it. So this is why the company buys back the stock, which jacks the price up, and then the executives sell the stock. It's what's called exercising your options. They sell the stock, and here's the juicy part of it. They don't pay the same income tax that you and I pay on our paychecks. If you're a surgeon and you're making $350,000 a year, you're paying 39.6% income tax. I mean, if you got a real job and you're making big money, and $300,000 a year is not even big money anymore in America, weirdly enough, sadly enough. I mean, you got 20 guys on Wall Street last year who made $2 billion each. But if you make 300 grand or 400 grand as a physician, for example, you're paying 39% income tax. If you make 300 or 400 grand in selling your stock options, you pay what's called the capitalist gains tax or capital gains tax, which is maxed out right now at 25%. It was 20% up until a couple of years ago. So these guys get this tax break. It's like welfare for the CEOs. Maybe we should be drug testing them, right? So they get to take their money and they pay a lower income tax rate, and they're focused on this. So how do you stop this? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. One would be to simply reverse the Reagan era rules and say, sorry, you can't compensate executives with stock anymore. That's my personal preference. I wrote about this in my book, Rebooting the American Dream. Secondly, you'd have essentially the same effect if you said that the capital gains income tax rate is exactly the same as the normal, as what's called ordinary income or earned income tax rate. In other words, banksters and CEOs pay the same taxes as surgeons. Well, now, being compensated in stock doesn't make any sense. Why go through all that when you can just take a paycheck? Because you're going to pay the same tax rate. And that's basically, Bernie has called for that. And that's basically what Hillary Clinton is saying. She's saying, well, give a discount, actually. The longer you own the stock, your capital gains rate will go down. Now, I disagree with that, at a policy level, but this is still a good first step. All right, so Hillary Clinton is saying, let's do this somewhat incrementally. But even that is considered revolutionary. What Hillary Clinton is proposing, revolutionary in the business world, because it's like, it's making CEOs' heads explode. This is the kind of stuff that we should be talking about. I mean, there should be democratic debates right now so that when the Republicans are having their debates and they're bashing, Medicare and Social Security and everything else, Democrats
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Once again, I think the DNC has been too clever by half, trying to protect Hillary, and instead they're going to hurt her and the party.